Welcome back, everyone. So we will gonna discuss the continuation of designing prototypes, high fidelity prototyping. A high fidelity prototype looks more like the final product and usually provides more functionality than a low fidelity prototype. There is a continuum between low and high fidelity, and prototypes used in the wild, for example, will have enough fidelity to be able to answer their design questions and to learn about interaction or technological constraints or contextual efforts. For example, Yao Shi and colleagues in 2020 designed a system that enables physicians to explore and understand AI-enabled chest X-ray analysis. To do this, they conducted a survey with physicians and radiologists that identified 8 key features, then co-designed a low-fidelity prototype with 3 physicians that embedded those features and subsequently evaluated a high-fidelity prototype with 6 more physicians. This high-fidelity prototype evaluation proved valuable in providing detailed summative recommendations for developing the medical AI image support further. One of the consequences of high-fidelity prototype is that the prototype can appear to be good enough to be the final product, and stakeholders may be less prepared to critique it or maybe critique it only superficially. So, the high fidelity prototype could be good enough that the user don't actually critique and then the creator don't improve it because it's already good enough. So these provide more functionality, usually 2 or more functionality than low fidelity prototype. But these are both prototype. To avoid this, it is important to focus on questions that prompt feedback on specific aspects whenever showing prototypes to stakeholders. Another consequence may be that fewer alternatives are considered because the prototype works and users like it. High-fidelity prototypes can be developed by modifying and integrating existing components, both hardware and software, which are widely available through various developer kits and open source software. For example, in robotics, this approach has been called tinkering since 1996, while in software development, it has been referred to as opportunistic system development. For example, Ali in 2018 used existing hardware, Arduino, and open source software to build a prototype to test their idea of playing musical instruments automatically from a mobile phone. So basically, this could be integrating existing components like this Arduino. So these are high fidelity prototypes. You're prototyping an entire system and combining it with another. Compromises in prototyping. By their very nature, prototypes involve compromises. The intention is to produce something quickly to test an aspect of the product. For example, with the paper-based prototype, an obvious compromise is that the device doesn't actually work. For physical prototypes or software prototypes, some of the compromises will still be fairly clear. For example, the chasing may not be very robust, the response speed may be slow, the look and feel may not be finalized, or only a limited amount of functionality may be available. So because you want to produce enough functionality and multiple functionality, uh, you need to compromise other aspects such as robustness, because robustness goes hand in hand with adaptability, which means that your product would not adapt if the product is robust, because you cannot change the product. It's already robust. The anatomy of prototyping, filters and manifestations. Two common properties that are often traded off against each other are breadth of functionality versus depth. These two kinds of prototyping are called horizontal prototyping, providing a wide range of functions but with little detail, and vertical prototyping, providing a lot of detail for only a few functions. So a vertical prototyping provide a lot of depth. So it's like vertical. For horizontal, you have this a lot of functionality, kind of like generalist. Three key principles underpin the anatomy of prototypes. Fundamental prototyping principle. Prototyping is an activity with stating station that, in simplest form, filters the qualities in which designers are interested without distorting the understanding of the whole. Economic principle of prototyping. The best prototype is one that, in the simplest and most efficient way, makes the possibilities and limitations of design visible and measurable. Anatomy of prototypes. Prototypes are filters that represent design space, like by building different prototypes that are constrained in different ways. A designer can consider a wide range of possibilities within the design space. Prototypes are also an manifestation of specific design ideas that concretize and stabilize conceptual ideas. So basically, if you filter different prototypes in different ways that are constrained in different ways, the designer could consider a wide range of possibilities with design. Prototypes are also a station of specific design ideas that concretize and externalize conceptual ideas. Several dimensions of theory and of manifestation be considered when developing a prototype. Table of one shows the filtering dimensions variables that the prototype might be investigate, such as its size, data privacy type, input, behavior, and arrangement of intelligent elements. So here you filter the prototypes, different variables. You investigate its size, data privacy type, input, behavior, and arrangement of intelligent elements. These for filtering dimension appearance. Example variables: size, color, shape, margin, form, weight, texture, proportion, hardness, transparency, variation, haptic, data size, data type, for example, number, string, media, data use, privacy type, hierarchy, organization, functionality, system function, functionality needs, interactivity, input behavior, output behavior, feedback behavior, information behavior, spatial structure, arrangement of interface or information elements, relationships among interface or information elements, which can be either multidimensional, intangible, or tangible mix. Pivotal, on the other hand, illustrates the different manifestation choices that might be made when building the prototype. Choices include, for example, whether to build it using paper or software, whether to use realistic or fake data. This is vertical and horizontal prototyping. This is earlier another example of the scope dimension. Manifestation dimension, okay, definition, medium, either visible or visible, useful prototype. Example variables, physical object, for example, paper, with plastic tools for manipulating physical matters, such as a knife, scissors, pen, and sandpaper. Computational prototyping tools, for instance, Python, physical computing tools such as fidgets and basic stamps, available existing artifacts such as a beeper, simulate artifact. Resolution, level of detail or sophistication of what is manifested corresponding to fidelity. Accuracy of performance, for instance, feedback time, responding to input, appearance details, interactive details, realistic versus data. Scope, range of what is covered to be manifested, level of contextualization, for example, website color, scheme testing with only color scheme charts or color scheme placed in a website layout structure, book search navigation usability, uh, testing with only the book search created interface or the whole navigation interface. What level of prototype is needed? High and low fidelity prototypes are used in different circumstances for different audiences and with different purposes. For example, paper prototyping is commonly used to explore initial ideas and is a core practice in game design. And low fidelity prototyping techniques such as sketching and physical modeling can be used with non-technical stakeholders to have them engage actively with design process. High fidelity prototypes can provide more detail and a more authentic experience and are often used in later product iterations. So a low fidelity prototype are usually used in the initial part of the design, but there is an exception where you want to provide like a concrete or persuade people that it's actually real because it provides a better experience. Sketching and physical modeling are usual for low fidelity prototype with non-stakeholders to help them engage as well. Both high and low fidelity prototypes can provide useful feedback during evaluation and iterations. So those are useful in both development. So it provides a different kind of information. So you have to do both. Ideal. This designer just about design experience for the United States Holocaust Museum. They have hypothesized that app would help visitors to engage with stories and produce a prototype. I discovered that this is a decision between visitors. So they produce a physical prototype and found that engagement and discussion is testing this early on how the significant resources we put into an app that might have an impact. Another compromise is level of robustness versus degree of changeability. So let's back up a little bit with this. First, they create a software. They found that this software is kind of like in the middle of low and high fidelity. It doesn't actually work. But what works is a physical product. So here is a physical product. Making prototype robust may let it to change. The compromise is not visible as for example, the internal structure of a piece of software may not have been carefully designed, or the connections between electronic components may be delicate. Conceptual design. The idea of conceptual model can be difficult to grasp because these models take many different forms and there is a definitive detailed characterization of one. Instead, conceptual design is best understood by exploring and experiencing different approaches to it. And this section provides some concrete suggestion about how to do this. A conceptual model is an outline of what people can do with the product and which concepts are needed for them to understand how to interact with it. The former will emerge from an understanding of the problem space and the current functional requirements. Which concepts are needed to understand how to interact with the product depends on a variety of issues such as who will use it, what interaction type it will have, and what interfaces type will be used. This will inform which terminology will be used, appropriate metaphors, and so on. So a concept is difficult or difficult to grasp because our product takes many forms, or this model takes many forms, or have different characterization depending on different use. And there is a detailed characterization of what, and also there is no detailed system or a way of like characterization, doing characterization in it. Instead, conceptual design is best understood by exploring and experiencing different approaches to it. And this section provides some concrete suggestions about how to do this. So the conceptual design is basically we're trying to like mimic its real prototype by engaging in techniques conceptually or on paper that will allow us to kind of like explain that in detail or like visualize the prototype in detail, including the edge cases. So that's the design process. Like we're creating it before we actually do that in the real world. It's kind of like how NVIDIA use software first to mimic and virtual reality to mimic how to create an actual AI hardware. A conceptual model is an outline of what people can do with a product and which concepts are needed for them to interact with it. So it explains what they can do and the concepts they need to learn to interact with it. They're basically trying to internalize or understand how this product works in detail or in detail so that they will be able to use it properly or to master it. Kind of like a software tools that is powerful, but you have to like master it or learn it before you can actually use it effectively, like Excel, Microsoft Word, etc. The former will emerge from an understanding of the problem space and the current functional requirements. Which concepts are needed to understand how to interact with the product depends on a variety of issues such as who will use it, what interaction type it will have, and what interface type will be used. This will inform terminology will be used, appropriate metaphors, and so on. So it will provide you a terminology and then the metaphors that will be used. Is it possible to so let me back up a little bit to this. Basically, this what interaction type the interface type will have determine which terminology and metaphor to use to solve that obstacle of the user. Later, we will see how methods can use to solve different user problem in the product. Using such technique allows interaction designers to gain insights into situations that are outside of their experiences, but they can have limitations. For example, Michel Mario in 2017 conducted experiments to investigate the impact of disability simulations. They found that they can have unexpected negative consequences such as feelings of fear, apprehension, and pity toward those with disabilities, rather than any sense of empathy. In addition, experiencing the disability for only a short time does not take into account the various coping strategies and innovative techniques that individuals develop. So, at one point, that these techniques allows us to actually experience the product or to be on the user's perspective. Usually, these conducted experiments that do not expect negative consequences, feeling of fear or pity toward those disabilities, rather than a sense of empathy. In addition, experiencing the disability for only short time does not take into account various coping strategies and innovative techniques that the user develop over time. But whatever the experience will never use as of someone living in that situation day by day. Brand advertising so far cannot replace the need to include a diverse set of people in the design process, including those with relevant lived experience. Different creativity and design techniques can be used to ideas within the design team. Together with sales and personas, prototyping can also be used to test ideas. Availability of ready-made component increases the ease which ideas can be prototyped. It also helps explore different conceptual models and design ideas. So most common different techniques that can be used to explore ideas or scenarios and personas. Prototyping can also be used to test the ideas. Availability of ready-made components increases the ease with which ideas can be prototyped. It also helps to explore different conceptual models and design ideas. So there's a lot of components as well that is ready that allow us to provide ideas that help us to explore different conceptual models and design ideas. Gradually, each design experience will emerge and become a part of two conceptual model and concept design. So these are the different things that we test. Eventually, we will create an image that is clear that will allow us to actually create the product. Developing scenarios is right in chapter 11. To help explore different design ideas, Susan 2001 proposed plus scenarios. These attempt to copy the most positive and most negative consequences of a particular proposed solution, thereby helping us to gain a more comprehensive view of the proposal. This idea was extended by Clara Mancini in 2010, who used positive and negative video scenarios to explore futuristic technology. So, really, about eating the fasting out of the beach at breakfast. Seek to introduction. Of course, traditional use in fashion and interior design may also be the design feel of a new product. So here, interior document is for any data gathering or validation activities considered in the context of technological feasibility. Let's see here. So here's a quick breakfast. Because as preparing his breakfast with this lesson, his wife's notices them and he gives her a demonstration of what they are and tells her about the magic. She says the best and is very room to get ready for it. Peter's open the fish to put away the book and sees pastry. He looks at it and gets a diet one message telling him the calorie content of the pastry. He shows that to his wife, who is entering the kitchen and looks at him with a smile. Peter prepares the pastry with one. His wife notices them while looking at his toast. He gets a text. His wife he says it's not, he doesn't feel like having toast after all. When she questions why, he becomes tense and reluctant to tell some about skeptical. She leaves the room with the sarcastic comment. Peter opens the page and sees the pastry. As he gives in and takes a bite, his wife, who is entering the kitchen, looks at him again. Simply, birthday party opposite, the wife looks at him with a grin. Here, she ends impressed with the book. First and best is my birthday party at the office. Peter is working away at his desk when some colleagues invite him to a small birthday celebration. He tries to refuse the daisies. As he joins them, wearing his glasses, he reads the birthday lady. He serves him a slice of cake. Peter looks at it and he takes out his mobile. He gets a text, checks Till and says his size is too big and asks Chris to cut it in half. Chris is intrigued and asks for an explanation. So Peter gives his colleagues a keen demonstration of how technology works. His audience is impressed, gathered around him. Peter is working away at his desk, and some colleagues invite him to a small birthday celebration. He tries to refuse, but they insist. As he joins them, wearing his glasses, his colleague is using a slice of cake. He takes the plate and gets the birthday lady. He gets a text and pretending it's an important phone call. Moves away from the others, the cake, tuned away from them. He throws the cake and goes back, pretending to have already finished it. Chris comments on how fast he ate. Peter excuses himself, saying he has a deadline to meet. And this how this is from video. differ in terms of positive and negative reactions to the system. The positive version is understanding an example for developers in a safety product compared to developing initial conceptual model. The concepts, the core components of the conceptual model are metaphors and analogies. The concepts to which users are exposed, the relationship between those concepts and the mapping between the concepts and user experience is important. Chapter 3. Some of these will derive from concept courses, concepts involved in their relationships, which may be captured through scenarios and use cases. And such as suitable metaphors and analogies will be informed by immersion in the data and understand the application. So effort will be only done after you have created the product. So the product requires like the interaction type and interface type is actually a what do you call this? Uh, the interaction and the interface type is actually the product requirements. But we will set a metaphor in order to combine familiar knowledge with new knowledge in a way that will help people understand the product. Choosing suitable metaphors and combining new and familiar concepts require a balance between utility and relevance, and is based on understanding users and their context. They found that using both concrete everyday objects and more abstract geometric shapes to develop metaphors improve the intuitiveness of the resulting interface. Pranav, metaphors used for conversational AI agents can influence people's perception and use of the agent. For example, an agent may present as a writing agent at the order or an experience object. In particular, there is that using a metaphor that could trace an agent created and confident in attacking users, but continuing use of a popular agent would decrease as the agent just appear less confident. What do you think that is? So, confident objects and abstract geometric shapes metaphor improve the intuitiveness of the resulting interface. So, conversation is as we saw, it appears to be confident. The first is to understand what the system will do. That is to identify functional requirements. Developing partial conceptual models and trying them may be part of the process. So basically, the first step is to identify what the system will do. And after that, you develop a partial conceptual model and trying them may be part of the process. So maybe the second step after developing a partial or incomplete requirements or function would be to create it. Now, the second step is to understand which bits of the product are likely to cause problems. That is, which task or subtask cause problem, are complicated or are critical. Sorry, let me correct myself that this metaphor can also be used in the conceptual design as are like a piece of the things that you think might be a problem to the user. But it's really important to test it early so that you don't get to this creating a lot of conceptual design without actually testing it in the real world. And then you will only know that it's not applicable to the user once it's actually there. A metaphor is only a partial mapping between the product and the real thing, upon which the metaphor is based. So it's only a partial or a little bit similarities with the real thing. It's not actually how it it's not actually how it is developed or rather mapped. Uh, Understanding areas in which users are likely to have difficulty means that the metaphor can be chosen to support those aspects. The third step is to generate metaphors. Looking for metaphors in the user description relevant activities, identifying metaphors used in the application domain is a good start. When multiple metaphors are being generated, they need to be evaluated. Exercise 5 is how much structure does metaphor provide? A good metaphor will provide structure prepare the different structure. How much of the metaphor is relevant to the problem? One of the difficulties of using metaphors is that users need to understand more than they do and start to navigate elements of the metaphor to the product, leading to confusion or false expectation. So a metaphor may make the user overcome confident. There is one it could be appropriate and can lead to confusion or expectation. This metaphor is easy to represent. A good metaphor will be associated with particular physical, visual, and audio elements as well as words. So the eye, eye and hearing and words elements is actually here as well. Will your audience understand the metaphor? Absence of metaphors aspects that may be in this setting, the family is all together. Each can choose what they want, but the overall experience is shared. Following this metaphor using previous questions, this conducted the following. So in the family example in the previous videos in which people gather to find the best travel destination, these are questions to ask to get the right metaphor. Does it supply structure? Yes, it supplies structure. It's about the family about finding the restaurant. This is a familiar restaurant environment. Restaurants are very different in the food they offer. The structure includes Sunday and and people enjoy the food. The experience of going to a restaurant involves arriving, sitting at a table, ordering food, being served the food, eating it, and then paying before leaving. From a different point of view, there's also structure around the food preparation and how the kitchens are run. How much of a metaphor is relevant? This application of seeing what is being offered and deciding what is most attractive based on the preferences of everyone in the group. This is similar to choosing a restaurant. For example, a restaurant will have a menu and visitors to the restaurant to sit together, choose individuals. But they all sit in the same restaurant, enjoy the environment. For a group vacation, maybe some members of the group want to be different activities and come together for some online. So this is similar. Information about the food such as additives available from the server or the menu. If some restaurants are able, photos or models of the food available for common. All these characteristics are related to the organization. One of the characteristics of a restaurant may differ from kitchen as one payment is required. There may be deposit your report before the meal or being paid for an after meal. For example, whereas Harish usually paid for an in advance. But even this differences from discussion open possibilities for the meal. Here's the metaphor easy to represent. There are several options in this graph, but the basic structure can be represented. The key aspect of successful on the road be to identify potential locations that suit everyone choose one. In a restaurant, this process involves two menus, talking to server, ordering food, location information, including photos and videos could be represented in the menu. Maybe as some as one move crowds and one kitchen. So the elements of the metaphor seems straightforward to represent. Will your audience understand the metaphor? For example, the target group has not been investigated but taking a restaurant. How does it work? There are several different experiences, a la carte, fixed menu, service up, or you can eat at food costs. For example, elements from this different types of restaurants used to expansion ideas. One of the disadvantages of restaurant metaphor is the need to have shared experience. For example, of the group and different conditions. Another possibility is method for the travel organizer is a travel consultant. Travel consultant discusses requirements with travelers and tailors the vacation for you, often maybe toward the activities, but making most of the discussion with the travelers you have. As the earlier questions about metaphor. The travel consultant metaphor is like structure. Yes, the key practice of this represent the traveler specify what they want, and also the research options. If you realize that travelers need access to consultant sufficient information to search the suitable region and leading them to make a decision. How much of the metaphor is relevant? The idea of handing over responsibility to someone else to search for suitable features immediately to some users, but it might feel uncomfortable to others. The level of responsibility even the consultant can be adjusted. Though, depending on user preferences, it is common for individuals to put together vision themselves based on what searches. But this can be decisioning and being checked on the planning vision. It would attract to some users with initial vision seeking. It's not for them. It's not very easy to represent. Yes, it can be represented as a software agent, or they have sophisticated database and research. The question is, would you like this approach? Will your audience understand metaphor? Yes. How to answer this metaphor? As a lot of that control exploration and people are metaphor is example. For example, consultant will be asked to find their vision conditions according to different criteria. As a traveler, third one. Interaction. As traffic individuals find different interaction. Instructing, conversing, manipulating, exploiting, and responding. Which type of interaction is best suited to the current design depends on the application domain and the kind of product we develop. For example, a computer game is most likely to suit manipulating style, while a software application for developing or adapting has aspects of instructing and conversing. Most conceptual models will combination of interactions, and the parts of interaction will be associated with different types. For example, in a group travel organizer, one of the tasks is to find out the visa regulation for a particular destination. This will require an instructing approach interfaces, no dialogue is necessary to this official regulations. Instead, a predefined set of information needs to be entered. For instance, the country issuing the passport and the destination. On the other hand, trying to identify a location for a group of people may be conducted more conversation. For example, the interaction between selecting some characteristics of the destination, some constraints and preferences. The organizer will suggest several options, more information and preferences will be provided. Device suggestion would be so on. Alternatively, for those who don't have any requirements yet, they might prepare to explore variability before asking for specific options. Responding could be used when an option is said that has additional restrictions. The system asks if the traveler meets them. Interface. We will discuss this and then upgrade this site and future videos. So again, guys, thank you for watching and see you on the next video.